Aging Matters on BCTV is supported by the Berks County Area Agency on Aging.
This is the program that is provided by and sponsored by the Berks County Area Agency on Aging. My name is Ann Bartlett, and I'm the Public Advocacy and Outreach Manager for the agency. Our show today is on the Census 2020, and my guest is Isabel Monterrosa, and she is the Public Relations Director for the Berks Complete Count Committee. Try and say that a couple times, I'm sure you have to. I was like, Berks Complete Count Committee. So thank you, Isabel, for being here today. I appreciate your time, and I think that we've got a lot of good information to share with everybody on this. We hear the Census 2020. So what I'd like to do is really break it down so we understand, what is that? What does it mean? Who should participate? What does that mean to even participate?
Correct.
So we've got a lot to go over. So let's just start right in with what is the census, and then a little bit about how often it might be taken.
Okay, well, the census is conducted every 10 years.
Okay.
And historical lesson here is the first one was in 1790, so it's been going on for a long time now. But every 10 years, there's a complete count that goes on throughout the nation that counts everybody that is residing in the United States. And that is important because, first of all, it tells us all the population, obviously, that is going to be driving a lot of the data, which we'll discuss the importance of that. But it's also very important for political representation, particularly a portion of seats in the U.S. House of Representatives. And lastly, it is one of the civil responsibilities of the United States. For example, there's jury duty, and then there's voting, and then there's the census, participating in the census. So that is really the census in a nutshell.
Okay, and I'm going to emphasize again, it's the U.S. Census.
Correct.
So I think some people, I don't want to confuse people that it's only a Pennsylvania census, that it is the nation, the United States, are all going to participate in the census.
Correct.
All righty. And so next we wanted to talk about, so it's every 10 years.
Yes.
So it'll come around again in 10 years.
Correct.
All righty. And I guess we should really talk about why is having the information, whatever you're going to ask, which we'll talk about what it is that will be asked when we participate in the census. Why is it so important to do this census and to do it every 10 years?
Well, the main focus that a lot of people will say is this is where the federal funding is determined from. So this 10-year census is going to have $675 billion that are going to be allocated throughout the United States based on the data from the census. So that's going to be definitely reflective of what the population is. So any program that gets federal funded is going to be focusing on those numbers. And again, we go back to the political representation. There are some areas that throughout the United States and in Pennsylvania that are in danger of losing political representation if their population is shifting depending accordingly. So it's very important that some of the areas that are notoriously undercounted have as complete a count as possible, because if they're undercounted, that right now is translating to about $2,100 roughly. It's rounded up a little bit, but about $2,100 per person per year for 10 years.
That we're not getting.
That we're not getting.
Because we've been undercounted.
Correct.
And the reason we've been undercounted, my guess, is because people didn't participate in doing the census.
That is correct.
Okay. So I'm gonna ask again. So the participation is vital, although everybody in the United States is participating on the census, as we all should. If we break it down to looking at us here, whether it's Berks County or the state of Pennsylvania, any of the programs that a lot of the folks in our community that we're receiving some support, if they have federal dollars behind it, we want to make sure we don't lose those federal dollars and hopefully get more based on the information we're getting. Is that how I'm hearing that?
That is absolutely correct. In fact, based on a predicted undercount, they say that in the last census, it's predicted that it was 4% was undercounted. So that would have rounded up to about 16,000 people. And so if you think of that, if that were to happen this time,
Yeah.
16,000 people, roughly 2,100 per person, is about $350 million
Oh,
that
wow.
will not go to the county because of that 4% undercount. So it starts to add up. And this is for resources that are already just getting off the board funding. So if we're used to receiving that funding and there's an undercount that's going to lower that amount, then it's going to become a dire situation when we should really be getting hopefully more funding.
And we could end up with less if we're not
Correct.
participating.
Yes.
And okay. And honestly, as we know, obviously things change in the 10 years.
Yes.
So our circumstances, our situations, the other supports, the other programs and services also change.
Yes.
So, in relationship to some dollars that are coming, just state dollars.
Correct.
If that's changing, we want to hopefully continue getting that full support or more support with the federal dollars for some of the programs that all of us are receiving
we
and
all
participating
receive
in
and benefit
programs.
from.
All righty. So I guess first, what is or isn't, looking at this little chart that we have, maybe we can get this up on the second slide for us to talk about the what does it mean to take this? Like what
What is it? How do you do the
look at?
census? Well, if people have taken the census in previous years, it's typically been a form that has been either mailed out or even beforehand, somebody would knock on the door and would go and ask the questions about how many people are residing there and about the size of the family. And so it's still those similar questions, which we'll talk about, which they are. There's 9 questions. But this year is going to be a little bit different. We've entered the world of technology this year. So 2020 is Census Day is April 1st. So that's what that means is the count is supposed to take place and the persons are supposed to be counted where they're residing on April 1st.
Oh,
so that has some
okay.
ramifications. For example, college students.
Right.
College students are to be counted where they're residing. So if they're in the dormitories, they're going to be counted at the dormitories. And that's important so that families can know that if their child is at the dormitory or away extended during that time, that they're not to be counted there. They're supposed to be counted once, only once, and in the right place. And so that's very important. But on April 1st is Census Day. And this year they're going to be doing and hoping to have the majority of it done through internet, online.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
They are using a lot of technology, and there's a lot of information that can be looked at if you go to the census.gov website, which will provide a lot of information in terms of the specific encryption and security that's being taken care of to ensure that the data is not only secure but remains confidential. So that is going to be the big push. So the census is going to be you're going to be seeing a lot of, fill out your information. But if you don't have the access to the computer or you just want to do it the old school way, you can request a paper form. And there are some areas that are going to receive the paper form just because they know that the access to internet may not be as good. So they'll still be there available. And also for people who speak different languages, they have the ability to call and then actually answer the census via, I think it's 11 languages or something like that. So they can use, they can do that, as well as for the people that it's an accommodation for hard of hearing, that they can contact that through the phone. So they have accommodations for different disabilities. However, if they're not completed through, I think through the end of April, then that's when they'll send out a new team of enumerators that will then do the traditional door knocking to follow up on the addresses that have not completed the census.
All right, I'm going to stop you there to review again a couple of things. So Census Day is April 1st, and that's where the time that we should be doing that to determine where we are on that day.
Yes.
And now I want to get back to whether we do it via the internet or whether we do it on a paper form. The questions are going to be the same.
Yes.
And I make a note. So let me also find out that if I went to census.gov before then, would I be able to see the types of questions that will be asked?
Yes.
And would I be able to complete it before then or not? It only starts on April 1st. The actual be able to fill in the blanks or answer the questions.
It's not open now. To answer the first question, yes, you will be able to see a sample form.
Okay.
There is a sample form that looks like the paper form, which will be duplicated on an online platform. But to answer the second question, it's not open to answer just yet. I
Okay.
believe my understanding is about the third week in March will be when they'll start opening up.
Okay, but at least if somebody's concerned, they can look ahead and see what
Yes.
will be asked when they're ready to do it. Then they have what they need to
Yes.
know to answer it, or know that it's legitimate. Those are the same questions that are going to be
Yes,
asked,
and
whether
that-
it's paper or internet form.
Correct.
And you said there's basic 9 questions.
9 questions that can be expanded. Some people say, okay, there's
okay.
not simple questions. Obviously, they might ask, and we can take a look at it in a little bit, but they may have something, for example, how many people are residing here or what the ethnicity is, and then they have like a drop-down menu almost.
Okay.
So the 9 questions should not take more than 10 minutes, really.
Okay.
Point.
All righty. And to be cautious, our show is geared for adults, older adults. So I know that at the same time we tell them to be cautious about the information they're giving, and yet this is so
Absolutely.
important to participate. So are there things that we say don't give out on this form or not, like Social Security number?
Absolutely not. Very good question. They will not ask for Social Security number or financial information, any bank information, nothing like that. They will ask for identifying information such as the name, the address, and again, we'll look at the questions specifically, but that's the big key. If they ask for anything that would be like the Social Security or any financial information, that is not the census. And again, the beauty of us all working together is if anybody has any questions, they can typically, if they live in the smaller municipalities, they can check with their town hall and talk
okay.
with them. They can have a sample of what the actual form looks like and can also answer any questions or specifics. And even in some cases, some of the municipalities are going to be opening up their doors to assist with answering the
that's
census.
great. Oh, that's super.
Yes, definitely. There's a lot of push to help people take away the myths and the fears that would prevent them from wanting to answer the questions. Even if you know how important it is, this day with technology, it's also fearful. And if they get to the point where the enumerators go, census workers have to display their ID immediately upon arrival. So if you ever get a knock on the door, the census worker, if they're working there, should be able to show the ID. And there's a verifiable number as well, too. So there's many layers that they can go to protect against fraud. And anybody that's working for the census will understand those measures that people are taking.
And obviously, the information is based solely for the census and the reporting, the
Yes.
statistical information kept confidential,
Yes.
not shared with anybody, because that's what's required in the way it's established, both on
Absolutely.
the internet. Okay.
And that's a good point. Every census worker, from the cashier to whoever, they take an oath of secrecy, so they cannot disclose any identifying information for their lifetime. And the census record is sealed for 72 years. So
Wow.
the identifying information will be sealed, and then what's reported at the end of the year to the president is just the numbers so that they can do the political House portion and also the funding. So all the identifying information should be sealed after July of this year.
Oh, wow. Okay.
The only time they'll ask for phone numbers and some identification if they need to clarify, but that information, as mentioned, will be sealed.
Okay, good. Anything else on this one? I think that, so again, continuing, you mentioned, we talked about what's not on the form, not Social Security, those kinds of things, but it's on, so you said how many on that day, so it's how many persons residing in that home
Who is
on that day?
residing in that household, yes.
Okay. What other types of information?
Well, they're going to ask how many people, as mentioned, on April 1st, 2020. Is the home an apartment? Is it a mobile home? As I mentioned on the screen we have now, is it rented? Is it owned? They'll ask that basic sex, age of people living in home, racial makeup, and that's where it can get a little bit lengthy if there's
Yes.
various multi-racials in there.
Yeah.
Are people of Hispanic or Latino origin, and also if you are, then there's a specific as to which country of origin.
Okay.
Okay.
All
The
right.
relationship, whether a person lives or stays somewhere else. So that's if somebody travels a lot or may not necessarily be such a permanent fixture there, but they want to try to count people as much as possible there. any additional people living or staying there, and then again, the telephone number, and that's simply for clarification purposes while the census is open for that data retrieval.
Okay, all righty. And so I want to go back and before we go, because I know there's some difficulties that I heard in that we need to address, I think, but so if I have, you say I could do it on the internet or by paper form. So on April 1st, like, does it magically appear on my, saying, hello, Ann, complete the census today? Or how do I know, internet-wise or even paper form-wise, how do I either be alerted to completing it or getting the form?
Well, there's some key census timelines and dates.
Okay.
In
And I think we have a slide on
we
that
have a
too,
slide
I think. Yeah.
5, I believe. So in mid-March, most people will start receiving a letter to respond
Okay.
online, by phone, or by mail.
Okay, so we first will get a letter
Yes.
telling us, okay,
Exactly.
got it.
And at that point, it'll provide a URL or an internet address for the persons to go to. There are talks about some codes being on there, but I personally haven't seen them yet, so I don't know. But at that time is when they'll start the alert. Plus, you will start seeing a lot of campaigning and a lot of
Sure.
information about it's coming. So as mentioned, on April 1st is Census Day. However, it's my understanding that around March 28th, the census line, I guess, will be open to start answering that. So about the week before is when the census online should be open. And then as it's not mentioned in this here, but again, it'll continue to try to get any people who have not responded to the addresses. That will continue through July. And then based on that information, on December 31st, 2020 is when the apportionment counts are delivered to the president. And then on April 1st, 2021 is when the redistricting counts are released based on the information.
So we'll first start to look for letters that'll come in the mail telling us to respond online, by phone, or by mail, targeting April 1st as the census day.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All righty. Very good. And so now I think on the one earlier slide, as far as, let me just go back to it, I think that there was something we mentioned that, oh, I know. When you said trying to capture everybody in that household and some might not be there. So I would imagine that there are going to be folks that are going to be difficult to reach.
Yes.
Tell me about that and how might we help them?
Yes. Well, we have titled it The Hard to Count, obviously. And it's interesting. Children under 5 years old throughout the nation were undercounted. In fact, it's believed to be 1 million children were not counted. And so there's many reasons why they're not counted. Many times adults just don't like to put their children, where they're not used to putting all the children, or don't want to have identifying information, particularly from other cultures. So that's one just thing. So we're really promoting, to families with small children that these fund a lot of the programs that they count. And as just mentioned, immigrant and foreign-born, again, there might be a cultural reason as to why the children aren't included in it. LGBTQ communities, again, there's maybe some misunderstanding as to what that information is being used for. People experiencing homelessness for obvious reasons, and there are several operations that are geared specifically for going to places where homeless people are known to spend time at to try to get their count and information. Economically disadvantaged, so low socioeconomic and low education, again, just not realizing the importance of it, which kind of goes along with young and mobile populations, which tend to be more transient. Again, they don't feel that it's like, well, I don't really own this, so therefore, why should I be counted? But the reality is everybody counts. People with disabilities, again, for various reasons. Now, in Berks County, we have a very strong partner with Abilities in Motion to facilitate. They're acting as an ambassador to assist the people with disabilities and all their caretakers to kind of provide a lot of information to really make sure that those people with disabilities are counted, because many times they have not been counted. And again, using a lot of the resources available, we want to make sure that they're counted.
Absolutely.
Seniors, and again, seniors, it's interesting. Many seniors definitely understand the importance of it. However, sometimes they might not want to answer the door if somebody's knocking on the door. There's fear. So again, we're hoping that with programs such as like this, and also other partners, the library, the township, municipality halls, that they can therefore provide a safer and more welcoming space so that they
Or
can
even
provide
some
the
of them may
information.
need assistance. Some folks that are more in their home, receiving some home services, may not get out a lot.
Right.
So, or may not have the computer, so they need the paper form. But sometimes there's we have visual issues, we have other issues that we really could use somebody to help us complete that form.
Absolutely, and that's our goal with the Complete Count Committee, is to identify all the resources that we have within our county, so that we know that the census and us at the Complete Count Committee can't reach everyone, but we know somebody through our different committees that can assist the various groups that are having some challenges in completing the census. And then rural communities, a lot of, for obvious reasons, they may not necessarily have either the internet or just not be focused on the importance of the census.
Or the awareness of it.
Yeah.
Okay, great. All righty, so moving on in a little bit of time that we have, so we talked about the participation, and we talked about I could do it internet, paper form, and then you said something about after a certain period of time in April that it's possible that we will actually see a census worker coming if
Correct.
necessary. So explain a little bit about that, what you're looking for.
So the census workers, they are going to be referred to as the enumerators, which is counters.
Okay.
So right now the census is hiring in our area. The starting hourly rate is $19.50 per hour, and it does go up for a couple dollars there, and it is flexible in terms of what the availability of the person is. There is a hiring preference and for veterans and individuals with disability. This one here is very important for a lot of people, is that there are waivers for SNAP, TANF, and Medicaid. So that means that while they are working as census worker, people who are receiving those benefits will not have their benefits affected by
good.
having the
Okay.
additional income, which is
Good.
super important. Previous to that, some people had been very wary because they didn't want to, mess up whatever financial situation was going on. But this is available, and what they're looking for right now, they're hiring. They're going to do the operations that I mentioned earlier, the special ones about counting the dorms, the homeless
okay.
populations. That's called group quarters, and that's responsible for hiring it, for counting in large areas. Prisons, nursing homes.
Oh, okay. That's what I was
Yeah.
going to ask, because we also work with folks that are in facilities, personal
Correct.
care homes.
Yes.
So it's really not. Is it nursing homes only, or personal care, or any?
It's any
residential.
Residential,
kind of, okay.
yes. So it's a residential facility. So yes, group homes of various types.
Okay.
Residential facilities, assisted living facilities, homeless situations, and then the colleges and dormitories and all that. So that's what they're hiring, and then they're going to be doing that. And then as that operation ceases, then they move on to the enumerating of the door-to-door.
Okay.
Which in this case, it's different than previous years. Now they're going to have a list of addresses that have not responded. So it'll be a little bit nicer. And the goal is to try to hire people from the communities as to where they're going to go knocking on the doors, so that there's, again, a less
Some recognition,
fear. Yes.
some acceptability for somebody
Correct.
that's going, I don't know if I should answer the
Right.
door, and they're asking me questions.
Yes, and for some
Okay,
people that may
and
not
that's
have an
good.
automobile, that if it's right near their area, so they're really trying to focus on a more neighborhood type of hiring for this,
Good.
which is a great opportunity for many people.
Wonderful. So you're looking to have folks help with this?
Yes.
And hiring, it sounded flexible schedule is
Yes.
nice, because then they can do it when they're able to do it within the time frames
Yes.
that you're looking to have to complete the count.
Yes.
That's great.
And it's extending through the summer. As mentioned, the
Oh.
operations will wrap up in July sometime. So a lot of these jobs will extend from March through July.
So you're recruiting now?
Yes,
All
actively
righty.
recruiting.
And so how can they
They can go to
connect with you, or
they
who do
can
they
either
connect
connect
with?
with me, and I can send them to the appropriate recruiter, or they can go to Census 2020 jobs. Just Google that, and it'll bring you up to the Census job site, and that'll be
I've also seen some freestanding yard,
Yes.
like yard signs
Yes.
that say something about
Apply
that. So
now.
they can look at that too. That's all
Yes.
around the community. I've seen those.
They can absolutely do that, and
Okay.
again, it is one of those things that they are really in need of people right now
Okay.
to make sure.
So they're recruiting for that help now to get everybody on board to help at that time when that occurs.
Yes.
some of these that are answering questions, maybe in their communities for people. So I think we have one more slide that we can maybe wrap up this. If we can have the last slide, the census needs your help.
Yes, it needs your help. The Complete Count Committee is made up of volunteers from throughout the community, but anyone can share any information through your social media, through your websites, newsletters. Also, you can host the Census 2020 informational sessions, assist your constituents to complete the 2020 census, and then share any print materials, host a census event, or promotes job recruitment within the areas. And so we're asking businesses and all sorts of places that really have a lot of representation come in that they feel may benefit from having more information. We're happy to do the informational sessions there. So really just joining with anybody that feels that they can help spread the news, we're happy to provide the support and assistance.
Okay. All righty. I'm going to just indicate before we put your contact information that, again, if anybody has any questions about the Census 2020, please feel free to call our agency, the Berks County Area Agency on Aging, at 610-478-6500. We can perhaps help you with answering those questions or direct you, if you are looking to volunteer, direct you to the appropriate resource to make that connection.
Absolutely.
And last, I think we have a minute for you to wrap up a final kind of sentence and then to be able to put the contact information up for you.
Absolutely. As mentioned, everyone counts in Berks. That is our tagline here.
Okay.
And again, it's just important, and it's safe, it's easy, and it's important. And so definitely I look forward for anybody to reach out to me. We'd be happy to help and assist you in assisting the community.
Great. And I think we have contact information that we can put up on the screen. There we go. For Isabel Monterrosa, there's her information. Please feel free to reach out to you. I know that you're a wealth of information and can direct them appropriately, whether it's the questions on the forms, whether it's recruitment for volunteers to help with the census, or a company, an organization, a business that wants to also make sure that everybody in their community knows about it, to make sure that we all participate in the Census 2020, because I think I like that tagline, everybody counts, and it's so important for that count, for all of the things that can come back to us in the community to help us here with federal and federal dollars that are supporting the programs that are so important and to the people here. So thank you so much for sharing this information. Appreciate it very, very much, and we'll see you next month.
Aging Matters on BCTV is supported by the Berks County Area Agency on Aging.
How do I take the 2020 census? You will have the opportunity to respond online, by phone, or by mail. Federal law keeps your responses safe, so take your 2020 census with peace of mind. Shape your future. Start here. Visit 2020census.gov.
¿Cómo participo en el Censo 2020? Usted tendrá la oportunidad de responder en línea, por teléfono o por correo electrónico. La ley federal conserva sus respuestas de manera segura para que participen en el Censo 2020 con toda tranquilidad.